All right. Hello, I'm Thomas Watson. I am also a realtor. I'm one of the brokers in charge at Revolution, and I'm your instructor for this Rev Up session. We're in Rev Up Module 11. It's titled Winning the Listing, Negotiating the Sale. So we'll break that down. So some of our learning objectives are, we're going to talk about the listing appointment for a bit. We're going to give you some tips for winning sellers and securing the listing. We're going to talk about marketing and servicing the listing and negotiating the sale. What does that mean? Okay, so in a nutshell, we're gonna go through the steps of what you would do when you conduct the listing presentation and present any marketing or pricing strategies. So included are the pre-listing questionnaire, research and preparation, and pre-listing package. And I'm going to email those documents to you after. So we're just going to fly through those and you will be able to reference those. Drop your emails in the chat window and I'll get those to you right after. Okay, so when we're talking about conducting the listing presentation, so I want to make sure we understand terminology here in real estate. So the listing presentation is the product. It's the deliverable that you're going to give or show someone when you're conducting your listing consult. So the listing consultation is the meeting, okay? It's the dialogue, it's the face-to-face or whatever it is. The presentation is the actual product. So this is, I know sometimes we use those interchangeably. So I just want to make sure you guys don't get confused. All right, so in talking about the presentation, and if you have not done so, go to your one login, go into the design, one design, I believe, and download the current ROG listing presentation. It is in, I think, in PowerPoint. You download it. You will be able to fill it out. It's kind of a fill in the blank type of thing to help you. You can change out photos, diagrams at your pleasure. In fact, you want to, add your photo and things like that. But if you haven't already done that, go ahead and do it. What we're going to do, I'd like for you, whether you can come in person or online, I'd like for people to come in person, but Fort Mill this Wednesday, we're going to go through and help you fill out that listing presentation. Because sometimes you're like, hey, what do I put in here? What matters? What doesn't matter? And if I'm a new agent, I feel like I don't have anything to put in a listing presentation. Well, yes, you do. Your listing presentation is going to look, it's going to be filled out just like mine. I've been in the business for 17 years. Now, it'll have some different nuances and different verbiage, but the listing presentation is something you're presenting how you conduct business for that seller on behalf of yourself, your business, and our firm. Okay. So we're going to talk about the greeting and the outline of the listing presentation, the home tour, and connecting with the client. So how many of you know what the home tour is referencing? I don't like tour. I would say preview.
Yeah, where the client shows you the house and you will kind of observe what the status of the house is and try to find things to connect with the client as well.
Right. Let me ask a question. If you're doing a listing presentation, when do you conduct the home preview?
Prior to that.
Okay. Brittany, did I hear?
I was just saying, like, you want to try to go ahead and get it done as soon as possible, right?
Maybe. Okay, so here is the short of it. It depends on what your business plan looks like for your listings, for how you carry out your listing consultation. So I will tell you how I do mine, and you can decide for yourself what's going to work for you. Let me give me a second here. I got to see if I think we'll go through my listing presentation here towards the end. I'm just trying to remember where it's at. So what we're going to do here today is we're really talking about the philosophy behind these points that we're talking about. So let's back up. So the greeting and outline of your presentation. So you want to make sure, okay, this is important because you're introducing yourself on paper, on PowerPoint, on digits, whatever it is. You're introducing yourself formally to a prospect. So you want to make sure that when they see it, it's appealing, that it pops, and the outline. So basically, when they see an outline, they're going to see a preview of what's inside. People don't want to be surprised. People don't want to read a lot. They like to glance. They bounce around and they look at things. So if your presentation is set up for that, just like the one ROG has provided for you, then it's a win already. All right, so the home preview and connecting with the client may take place at different times. So let me give an example. The client that you already know versus the client that just calls you out of the blue or you connect with out of the blue. So the person, let's just say it's somebody you've done business with before. They call you or email you and say, Tommy, we're thinking about selling this house. My wife just got a job in Florida and we already have to move. We know it's only been 2 years, but we know you sold us this house, so we want to work with you again. So you already have information about that house if you put them in it. So, however, don't stand on the information from 2 years ago. You go do your research again. Now, there are notes and things from the old listing that you can use, but you want to make sure that you start fresh, start new, because you don't want to miss anything. Tax values could have increased, home values have increased, things like that. So you want to start fresh with your homework. So when I mean homework, I mean your research. Okay, so if somebody calls me and says, hey, I want to sell my house, or I'm thinking about selling my house, the next thing I try to do is to lock them in an appointment, okay? I need to meet with them, right? Not many people do everything virtually. If they did, then, but anyway, so at some point I'm gonna go look at the house. Here's what I do. I say, hey, I'm available on Thursday at 5 o'clock. Does that work for you and your spouse? And you want to make sure both are at home, okay? Don't go and do a walkthrough or a preview, a listing consult, unless both people who are going to be selling are at the house. That makes sense? Because sometimes you may not know who the decision maker is. And when they're married, they're both going to be on the contract. So you want them both to be at home. Okay. All right. So I nail down that date. And what I do is on the phone, I say, hey, tell me some of the reasons why you want to sell. What are some of the things that are going on with the house? What are some of the things that you've done with the house? If they'll tell me that. And I go ahead and write all that down. And then, okay, I say, all right, I'll see you Thursday at 5 o'clock. So between today and Thursday at 5 o'clock, guess what I'm doing? I'm going on the MLS. I'm doing my research. I may drive around the neighborhood and get a glimpse of what's going on, see if there's any construction around, whatever. I may call the HOA or look up the HOA, things like that. So when I go to their house, I have a packet, a CMA to take with me, along with my listing presentation, okay? However, when I get to when I'm on that phone call and I'm setting up that appointment, this is what I tell them. I say, all right, I'm gonna do some research and I'll meet you Thursday at 5 p.m. I would like to do just a short walkthrough and let you tell me, any upgrades that's, happened to the house since you bought it, and just let me physically make notes in each room. So when I get there at 5 o'clock Thursday and they say, hey, Tommy, I'm like, hey, they're like, you want to come in and sit down? Nope. If you don't mind, could you just guide me? I want to go through each room in the house. I have my notebook here or my pad. I'm going to make some notes so that I can make the best assessment to give you the best pricing. So what I've done is already have my CMA under my clipboard with a suggested sales price, but I'm not going to give that to them until I visually see the condition of the house, because there are 3 lists. There are things that are wrong with the house or the condition of the house that detracts from the list price. There are upgrades that will add to the list price. And there are some things that they think are important or valuable that are not. We want to list those anyway, and just validate that in them, but be able to tell them why that doesn't add to the value of the house. All right. So you see what I'm doing. I'm doing my research. I'm prepared, but I'm not going to give them a price. I'm going to look at the house. I'm going to make my notes. And then depending on that client, I will sit down with them after that 15, 20-minute walkthrough. And I'll say, hey, this is where we're at. Based on what I'm seeing in the house, I now see that the interior needs a full paint. I'm estimating that's going to be about $4,000. Yeah. And anyway, all right. So we sit down and I'm talking to them. So it depends on if they've already told me, hey, we want to get as much out of it as we can, versus, well, we just want to sell it. We definitely don't want to lose money, but we want to sell it fast. We don't really care about doing the multiple offer or whatever. I kind of gauge that in the conversation. And then at the end of that session, I may tell them, all right, this is what we need to sell your house for. I give them a copy of the CMA, but I do not give them my final number. And I'll tell you why. Is because when you go to listing consults, or whatever you want to call it, presentation, a lot of times clients are shopping. They're going to talk to 2 or 3 different realtors. I don't want to hand them my full homework research so they can have it sitting on the table for the next realtor that comes in. Or they may say, oh, we have all the information we need. Now we're just going to do it for sale by owner. I give them the minimal, the CMA that they need to have. I give them a copy of my listing presentation. And then in my head, I have the 3 prices I give them: top of market, quick sale, and somewhere just below top of market is my recommended list price. Because even if I know top of market, I can sell your house for $500,000. In this market, I still want to come under and probably like $490,000, $495,000 tops, because we're looking at people they're going to say, oh, this looks like a deal, and they're going to multiple offer it up above 5 anyway. So you see, my strategy is I come in, they're not expecting a number, they're expecting me to preview their house, because I have to do that to give them the best information as far as what it's going to take to list their house. Now, if the house is a wreck and they don't want to do it, it's not going to be an as is. Oh, by the way, in North Carolina, there is no as is. Even if we put it in the remarks, North Carolina doesn't recognize that, but it does convey a message to the other side when you put it in the remarks. So the seller's not going to make any repairs. So you could say that just as well. The general public, because they're uneducated, it's a buzzword for them because they think, oh, okay, they're not going to do anything to the house. But In North Carolina does not do as is. All right, any questions so far?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. So you have to decide, and based on the client too, if you have a very, let's just say type A client, analytical, they want you to come in Thursday and give them the numbers, or they're pressing you, I'll give them the number. But then I'll say, but based on the information that I now have from today's walkthrough or preview, I need to go back and scrub my research again and make sure this is the best number for you. So again, I'm telling them I still need to go do some work. This is as close as I'm gonna get right now, but that takes you off the hook, right? And then you're gonna get some dialogue from them. Well, let's don't sell top of market because we want our house to go first. That's the kind of information you want from them. Because look, you're not selling this house based on what you want to sell it for. You want to sell this house based on what's best for your client. Does that make sense? That's what you were hired to do. Now, a lot of times what we would sell the house for is what's going to be best for the client, because they want as much as they can get, most of them, right? But under certain situations, that may not be the case. By the way, my real estate instructor back in 2006 told us about, I guess, an experience he had as a real estate agent who was called to a house, and it was the children of the deceased mom. They all lived out of state, and they just needed to sell the house, get the estate closed up. And they told him, for whatever reason, their mom said to sell the house for a certain number. And he was like, well, okay, but you can get a lot more for that. No, we want to sell it for what mama said to sell it for. So long story short, he ended up buying the property himself and reselling it and making a lot of money on it. But the kids were abiding by mom's wishes that she wanted to sell the house for X amount of dollars. So that's a very strange example and probably doesn't happen at all. But our job is to represent our client's best interests. Okay. Closing the listing and completing the paperwork. So, and that should say appointment. Really, anytime you're in front of somebody, well, let me just say this. When you have an appointment for a buyer or a seller and you're with them, you should close the sale then. So what I do is I take a copy, or sometimes I already have it ready in my laptop through SkySlope. I get them to say, yes, they want to work with me. And then either we sign the document there, or I go back to the office or to the house and I send them the listing agreement through DigiSign. But I get them to say yes or no, they're going to work with me. So the power, some of the validity behind them working with you comes from what you give them. They're not going to ask you everything. You're not going to tell them everything about your background. But when they look at your listing presentation, that's the one thing that can push them to the point where, okay, let's work with this guy. But you got to be persuasive that you know the market. You're the one that's going to give them time. You're the one that's going to sell their house based on their needs, their desires, and completing the paperwork. So we really not are going to talk about that, but in my opinion, that's a different class. But basically completing your going through your listing checklist, making sure that you have all the documents that your client needs to sign, and we can go through those at the end if you like. Okay, So when we're talking about the home tour, and again, I may change this to preview because it sounds like new home. The home preview, connecting with the client. Oh, by the way, when I had the client walk with me from room to room for that 20 minutes while I'm writing down information, guess what we're doing? There's that big C word on the screen.
Connecting.
Yes. Okay. So if somebody calls me, like in the past, I do leads. Somebody calls me, I don't know, from Adam, and I go to their house. Guess what? Because of the way I've designed my listing consult, I get at least 20 minutes with them to connect. And we're talking about pictures on the wall. We're talking about their kids. We're talking about their passion or their hobbies, because you'll see that laying around the house or whatever. And I get to tell them a little bit about me. So again, that's the beauty of the way I've designed my listing consult. 95% of the time, that's the way it works. People will, if you're leading the way, people will follow. But if you don't have a plan, they're going to give you their plan. So I come with my plan in place, and I'm not pushy about it, but I say, here's what we're going to do. So we have a top 10 favorite features of my home tool that I'll send you. And it helps clients understand, or helps you understand what their top favorite features are. Because if they liked it in the house, it's possible that the next buyers are going to like that as well. So it's just a way to get people say, oh, tell me what some upgrades or what's good about your house. The top 10 helps.
Hey, Thomas, I have a quick question real quick.
Yeah.
At what point in this process do you have to give them the working with real estate brochure?
Okay, good question. So it depends. You could have already given it to them before. You would take a copy with it under your CMA, your clipboard. Or so it depends. Okay, all right. If we talk about commission and we talk about price, here's the way I do it. If they're going to work with me, I take that information, I go back home and I email it to them and they sign it. They sign it with the listing presentation. But if you talk too much about commission and pricing, you might want to go ahead and do it there. I kind of go with the client and see, are they on the fence? Are they with me? Are they still trying to figure me out? Because sometimes if you pull that paperwork out,
it's just a little intimidating for them.
Yeah, so I'm trying to make sure I don't tell you guys, to do something that's not. I think you're just gonna have to use your intuition a little bit, but also understand, you want to make sure that if you're in doubt, go ahead and get them to sign that form. And the way to do it is say, hey, this is what I usually say is, hey, this is it used to be a brochure. Say, look, this is a brochure or form that's required by the state for me, just to make sure that you're aware of your rights. You don't have to work with a real estate agent at all, or you can choose to. And that's all this form is talking about. If you don't mind, could you just jot your signature on it for me?
Okay.
And they usually do.
Yeah.
All right. And we're going to involve the sellers in the information gathering process. Like I said, they're the experts in their house. They've been living in it. They know what it's like. There are things about it that you're not going to find on the MLS or in any kind of research. You're just going to have to gather it from them. And by the way, this is where you start training the seller to get information, because they're going to have to do it from contract to close. So you want to make sure that they're already learning, like, okay, when you say I need this form, I need to go get this form. Or if you say this needs to be filled out now, I need to fill it out now. So you're training them. Present marketing strategies. That's going to be in your listing presentation. And sometimes you may have an iPad or a laptop with you and you show them, you go through it digitally. I always say take a printed copy because you just don't know what people prefer. Even if you have that iPad, they might want to see the printed copy, or you go over it with the iPad and you leave them the printed copy, or you just email them. I mean, some people don't even use any print copies anymore. Everything's digital. So you just got to kind of gauge that with your client. Sell yourself and your company first. And here's why. Sell yourself as first, because this business is about you. You're the professional that's going to sell their house. You are backed by the strength of your company. Okay. Our numbers, our ratings, our awards, all of that. So if they're kind of like on the fence on you and they see all the good stuff that's behind Realty One Group, that can push them over the edge to work with you, or vice versa. Most of the times, 90% of the time, you're selling yourself. People want to work with you, the agent. There are very few times these days where somebody says, well, I like working with Remax, or I like working with Realty One. They want to work with the agent who's going to sell their job, sell their house and do the best job. All right. So you're going to highlight yourself and your company. We'll talk more about that Wednesday. You're going to lead with value. You're not going to talk about how great Tommy is, how great Justin is, or Nelly, even though you are going to do that. You're going to lead with, here's how I can get your house sold because, or whatever. Okay. Here's why I'm the market leader, or because I do X, Y, Z, I'm the market expert that's going to sell your house. You get what I'm saying? So they need to see the value in it for them in your marketing strategy. And you want to help the seller think like a buyer. When I'm doing that preview, it's usually only 20 minutes, like I said, unless we just talk too much. When I talk to them, when I ask them questions about the house, I say, hey, by the way, I'm a buyer looking at your house. And don't take anything personal, but if I point something out, it's because this is what a buyer is going to be looking at. Okay. If it's that water leak in the ceiling, I don't care what it is. By the way, I have had to tell clients, if we're going to sell this house, you've got to take that poster off the wall, or you got to take those pictures off the wall. And then you have your reason. Sometimes people might have racist things on their wall. Okay. And you don't berate them for it. You just say, hey, if you want to get your house sold and appeal to the most people, I want to ask you to take this off the wall. Now, don't say just because, their favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys, is hanging on the wall, don't tell them to take that down. I mean, I would, but you know what I mean? You want to have them take down things that might be offensive to people walking through the house. For example, some people burn incense in their house. And like me, I'm just that guy. I can't take it. I mean, I can't even walk in the stores where they sell all the soap and stuff. It just messes with my sinuses. So things like that. You're going to have to learn to talk to them like a buyer and help them think like a buyer. Okay, present pricing strategies. So, and all this is already in the ROG presentation for you. Discuss months of inventory. So we're negative months, right? There is no inventory. And by the way, can anybody tell me where to go get these stats? Months of inventory, days on market, etc.
Can't you just do that on the Canopy MLS, the homepage?
Yep. If you go to Canopy and you go to, what is it, stats? I don't know.
Yeah.
You can pull that thing. And they usually don't they send a copy monthly? Or you get a notice where you can download it from the MLS when you log in. And you can go by zip code. You can look at it a few different ways, but that is a great thing to insert in one page of your, say if you're a market expert, say, I'm gonna say Ballantyne, then you want to take the stats for the month from Ballantyne and put them in your, or for the quarter, I would say, and put them in your presentation or have them ready. Present the competition. Competition is houses they are going up against. What's the competition around them? Is it new construction? Is it resales? Right now, it's anything that people can live in, right? Anything's competition. So it's price point. So if we overprice it, if something's selling at 500 and we put it at 550, guess what? They're going to look at the competition first, right? It doesn't take a lot of brain power to figure that out. So, but it's simple. You got to talk about it. All right. Asking price in relation to market value, as opposed to percent of potential buyers who will look at the property. Now, this is in a balanced market, guys. So if you have a house price 15% above market value in a balanced market, you're going to hit 10% of the buyer market. Okay, you see where this is going? If we are 10% over market value, we're up to 30% of buyers. If we're at market value, we've got 60% of buyers. Stats have proven this screen, but in a balanced market, which we are not in right now, we will be. That's what's happening. We're going to tweak our way back in the next 3 to 5 years, but you see where this is going. So if you're priced under market, you hit more. All this is, hey, this is supply and demand, right? All right, this screen really doesn't pertain to us right now, but I wanted you to see the idea of when you price a house, and we will get to the day where houses will be on the market again for a number of days because the demand will be lower. All right. So this is in your listing presentation already when you download it. Here's the takeaway. The takeaway is the first 2 weeks listed on the market are the most vital days of the listing. For whatever reason, after it's been on 2 weeks, and again, this is in a more of a balanced market, but in any market, if a house sits on the market, people wonder what's wrong with it. There's a perception of days on market versus what? Marketability of the house. You fill in the blank. You think about it. If something's sitting on the shelf, nobody's buying it, you wonder what's wrong with it. Research has proven that if you don't list a product high enough, or if you don't market a product high enough, people won't buy it because they won't think it's valuable. That's why you can overprice a product and people will still buy it. Higher is not always better though. All right, ask for the listing. This is at the end of our consult presentation, whichever one you want to call it. So be patient. Don't be pushy. I know sometimes you're going to drink too much coffee. You're going to get in there and you're going to be very confident and you're going to talk too much. You're going to be loud, and then you're going to upset somebody and they're going to say, okay, we'll call you back. Don't do that. Go in there, be patient, ask open-ended questions, encourage them to talk, ask questions, have dialogue, include the seller in the decision-making process. This is part of asking for the business. All right, at this point, you have reviewed the motivations, the timing, concerns, criteria. And a lot of this is on the worksheets I'll send you. You've already discussed qualifications, market informations, the competition, just like we talked about. You've presented market supply research, price range availability, comparable homes. This is all your home. I call this homework, okay? Research/homework. You've secured an agreement on the best price range and upper limits. They've agreed with you, hey, if we sold this house, yes, we do agree with you, that would be the best price point. Then you presented your target market plan. Then you've answered, handled any questions and any objections. Okay, it's a process. Then you want to close for the listing. Okay, so you need to have walked through those things, because what I just listed is all vital information that seller is going to want to talk about. So for me, let's go back to my listing consult. It's two-part. I set up an appointment. I do my research prior to going out there. I go meet with them, do the preview walkthrough, sit down with them, and then I tell them, hey, I want to go back and factor in this new information that I now have from the walkthrough, and I'm gonna call you back and either confirm this list price, or we're gonna change it, or I'm gonna tell you if it needs to change. So they're looking for me to come back. They're looking for me to get back with them. When I get back with them, that's usually when I ask for the business. But that's me, and it depends on the client. So ask for the business. If you don't ask, they may not give it to you. If you don't ask, they may think you don't care, you don't want to work with them. People are like that. Sometimes people think we show up and we just educate them. No, we're there for the business. We're going to educate because we're the best ones to help them sell their house. Sellers are looking for a go-getter, someone assertive with a can-do, fearless attitude. And I'll tell you, I am this. However, I've had at least 2 friends in my real estate career tell me that they're not going to have me sell their house. They're going to work with somebody else because we are friends. You know what? And I used to get upset about it. I've had family do it a couple of times, but I don't anymore, because to be honest, out of the millions of people that you could be doing business with, if you fear losing a relationship with a friend or a family member over doing business transaction, then don't do it. If there's already that cloudiness, murkiness of, hey, I don't know if we should be working together, I don't know if you should know the details of our life, our finances, then refer it and get a referral fee. Okay, so don't let them go look for the other agent. Tell them you've got an agent that'll look after their best interests, refer it. Anyway, so that will happen. So don't let it disappoint you. Some people are just going to say, I know you too well, I don't want you to work my deal. And this one particular lady, she told my wife, I don't want Tommy working, I don't want Tommy to be our agent because we're going to be hell on our agent. What is that? Anyway, but that's how some people are. So demonstrate that you have these qualities. Then we're going to complete the listing paperwork. Yay, who loves paperwork?
Yay!
I love it. It's so much fun.
It is when you do one at a time, it's okay. But then
Yeah.
you got 5 or 6 going, it's like, okay, it's time to get a transaction coordinator. All right. Complete the listing paperwork, obtain signatures. Because guess what? If you don't get the signature, guess what? What do they teach you?
Not valid.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, you don't have a contract. You don't have a valid enforceable contract. I wonder how many of us have worked through transactions without a valid signature. It's happened. And sometimes DigiSign or DocuSign messes up and something doesn't get imprinted. Yeah, you got to double check that stuff. All right. Complete the listing paperwork as much as possible in advance. So you guys have the ability to pre-populate your paperwork in SkySlope or whatever it is that you use. Before digital was a big thing, I used to, I promise, in the trunk of my car, I used to have a little notebook and I had 2 or 3 listing agreements pre-populated with as much information as I could, put in there, typed in, and then I would pull them out, and then I would have the client in front of me. We would fill out the rest and pin and, sign it. But you don't have to do that now. So if you can pre-populate, or what will help, what I would say is just as good, is create listing folders, buyer folders, referral folder. That way, when you go download the folder, you already have the proper paperwork in them, depending on if it's a buyer or listing. And Amanda can show you how to do that if you're not up on it. So again, ask for the business. Oh, we've already been there. Come on. Okay, we're not going to talk about automatic price reductions. Doesn't really apply in this market, but it's a tactic in a buyer's market. Showings and seller reporting. Okay, all this means is that when you're setting up showings for the listing, you want to make sure that the seller, upon their wishes, that they're getting copies of that. They're getting the feedback, or they're seeing, especially if they're approving the listing, you have the proper information so they can get the approval from Showing Time. Collect cards. That means you're going out to the house. We don't need to collect. Well, some people, if somebody is not in the MLS, they'll have to call you and get permission, and you'll ask them to send, text me a photocopy of your license, and you look them up, make sure they're active. But for the most part, people are using lock boxes. But anyway, all this stuff is just like kind of behind the scenes stuff. Make sure you fill up your flyer boxes. I don't think many people use those anymore. Again, everything's online. Contact showing agents for feedback. Okay, this is where if somebody shows my property, they're going to be getting an email or text from me in a couple of days if they don't give feedback, because it is what? Why should you leave feedback when you go on a showing? So what we're supposed to do, right? And it's professional courtesy to help each other. When I leave feedback for another agent, that helps them go back to their seller and use that feedback to either change the price or change something about the property that needs to be changed. Or it reinforces they're sitting at the right price point. All right. Do not defend the listing or the price. Just report. This is we're doing showings, seller reporting. When an agent calls you and says, you got the house listed too high, that's not only to say, hey, I'm abiding by my client wishes. Don't reveal anything you're not supposed to, because you are in a fiduciary responsibility with your client. You don't tell the other side information that may give them the edge over your client. Okay, an offer arrives. Okay, contact the seller only when the offer actually arrives. This is something I've learned. Sometimes I've contacted my seller like, oh, we got an offer coming, or we got 3 offers coming. Wait until you get it, because it just creates chaos and controversy, because sometimes they never come. And then your person gets on you like, where's that offer? Why'd you tell me there's an offer and now there's not? And then you have to go explain because, well, the other agent is an idiot or whatever. So just wait till you have it in hand and then tell your client. 2 methods. Nobody does it in person anymore. Sometimes we can, depends. But electronic is usually how we transfer offers, right? Be prepared to provide a net sheet for each offer. Okay, so what I do is before I actually go live with the listing, I fill out a seller net sheet for my seller so they know about what they're going to be getting out of this listing. So when the time comes for negotiation and they're asked to come off the list price or they're getting more than list price, they can use that net sheet as kind of their as a place to bounce off. And by the way, you want them to know about what they're going to walk away with. You don't want that to be a surprise at the end. Most people, they already know, they're figuring it out themselves, but you know what the fees are, the regular fees, the about fees. And if you don't, you can get with me or your mentor and we'll help you. Negotiating. Learn scripts for presenting less than perfect offers. Go for the win-win solution. Help sellers understand price and terms, but not both. Okay, in a balanced market, you don't get price and terms, you get one or the other, but we're not in a balanced market, so we're not going to waste time there. We can have that conversation in a couple of years. Closing the sale, you want to make sure you follow the checklist and SkySlope. Hire a TC if you need one. And I would say, if you ask me, Tommy, when should I hire a transaction coordinator? I'm probably going to tell you, well, depends on your budget. Some of us have more side money than the other, but based on your level of copability, but I would say if you've got 3 or more transactions going on at the same time, it's probably time to hire a transaction coordinator. Okay. If you're working, you can do 2 at a time yourself, especially if you want to save money. But when you get to doing 3 and 4 or more, paying that transaction coordinator $300 or $350 to handle, make sure the ball doesn't get dropped, it's worth it. Believe me, you would rather get that $350 to end up with $12,000 in your pocket because you don't want to drop the ball. And when you're juggling multiple deals, something can happen and you miss it. So you need that help. You need the extra eyes on. Communicate daily with your client in some form or fashion. Call, email, or text. After the sale, think about a gift that'll leave a lasting impression. I feel like we talk about this a lot, so I'm not going to stay here. Ask for feedback. How did I do? How can I do better? What was awesome? Your CRM, you have a way of setting up a follow-up system so that you can stay in touch with your past client, because they're going to send you more business, right? You want to send them information that will help them in their new house. And then we always end with the 1 habit. Who can tell me what the 1 habit is? Anybody? Is anybody doing the 1 habit? Okay, y'all better get busy with the 1 habit. Okay, so each day making 3 calls, reach out to 3 new people you want to do business with, add those 3 people to your database, send note cards to those 3 people saying, hey, it was great talking to you today. And then send note cards to 3 other people that you've already met in your database just to keep in touch. And that'll help you grow your database, your reach, and you'll find that as this reach grows, it grows exponentially. It's not a plus add, it's exponential. You'll start getting more and more business. All right. That's all I have today. Any questions?
No, I don't really have any questions. So you said Wednesday's kind of gonna go over this, but even more in depth.
I am gonna focus on the listing presentation, and Jordan is gonna do a Q&A. He's gonna
Okay,
Tell
got
you how he gets listings. So, I've got a few documents. I think I'm gonna send you, I've got a multiple offer worksheet. So if you get a listing up and you get 6 or 10 offers at the same time, you can plug all of these into the spreadsheet. And now you can look at them at one glance rather than going back and forth. So that will help you with your seller. I'm going to send you a pre-listing questionnaire, a timeline checklist, a copy of a ROGR, a real estate flyer for listing, and then I've got one more I may send. It's on the listing description. So that's the information that I'm going to send you. Oh, wait a minute. There's a little more. Sorry. Yeah, the duties of a listing agent. That's a PDF. Oh, I'm going to send you to this because you can use that for your listing presentation. Or if somebody's like, yeah, I don't know, we're thinking about selling our own house, send them this copy of Duties of a Listing Agent. It's 44 things, I believe, or 48 that you're going to do for them. They might have second guesses about doing it themselves. Yeah, I've got several. I got the 10 favorite features. So I got several worksheets that I'm going to send you. If you have any questions about any of them, just get back with me. But definitely Wednesday, we're going to do a little bit of a giveaway. So I'll let the cat out of the bag by email later. But if you want to bring a friend that's with another firm, we don't care.
Okay,
All right.
cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, Tommy, I actually have a question before you go.
Okay. I'm gonna
Um,
stop the recording.